So the Godzilla X Kong Double Team movie is out, and I finally finished watching it. And how is this movie? This movie is just dumb fun. This is the first Monsterverse movie I have enjoyed since Kong Skull Island. Not counting -1, because that's a different band of people making that movie, even though that movie was a masterpiece in its own right. But this, in terms of the connected Monsterverse, Kong Skull Island and Godzilla X Kong, The New Empire, are the only two movies that I've enjoyed and had so much fun with, and that's fantastic. The rest, no. The first two Godzilla movies back in 2014 and 2019, I didn't watch those because at the time I did not give a fuck and I did not want to watch them, so I just let them pass me by. But I always like King Kong. I'm more of a King Kong fan, if anything, because I like Godzilla. He's cool and all, but I don't know, I just like giant monkeys. Whether giant monkeys are kicking ass or fighting kaijus or falling in love with Naomi Watts, it's always a blast, and I get a kick out of watching those King Kong movies, even the old one. And the crazy thing is, this feels like a King Kong movie more so than a Godzilla and King Kong movie, because Godzilla is barely in this and he does not do that much. He just sleeps in a coliseum and then comes at the very end fight just to help Kong fight the evil bad guys, and we'll get to them in a minute. But the scenes they do give Pink Godzilla are pretty sweet. The Godzilla scenes in this movie are pretty sweet, and I did enjoy that. I did appreciate that very much. Especially all the monster fights. All the monster fights in this movie are grand, they're huge, they're long, and they're freaking fun. They're just so fun. But King Kong's still MVP here, and he has more to do and more story-driven moments to give, and those moments are great too, especially the new character, little Diddy Kong. Yeah, this movie is basically Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong in one movie, and that's pretty cool. That's the most unofficial Donkey Kong movie I can ever see in my life. And we're dealing with new bad guys with new powers, so that means two of our titans need some upgrades ourselves, and that's true. King Kong gets the fucking Infinity Gauntlet, and Godzilla turns pink into his new evolved form, and they do their fair share of kicking ass, and that was pretty cool. But mostly you see King Kong kicking ass, and when you see King Kong kicking ass, it's very violent, it's very brutal. He does not care. It's just throwing haymakers, and I love that. So our bad guys, who are Godzilla and King Kong fighting? In this adventure, they're fighting Zuko, the Scar King, and his pet Shimo, the Ice Lizard. And these villains, I thought they were pretty gangster. I thought they were pretty savage. I did like how Zuko was riding Shimo. I was like, holy shit, man. That's a presence. He asserted his presence, and he has a plan. In some of these Monsterverse movies, villains do not have a plan. They just start fighting each other. But this guy actually thought of things. He had a plan. He was going to control Shimo with the diamond shard. I don't know how that makes him control Shimo, but it does. So, that's a villain presence right there. Him riding Shimo to fight Godzilla and King Kong. That's pretty cool. Like, I can go on and on. All the monster scenes in this movie are fantastic. They're very big, they're very epic, they're very satisfying, especially if you're a Godzilla or King Kong fan. Mostly towards King Kong fan, because some Godzilla fans might be leaving this movie kind of pissed. He's barely in the movie. He's only in the movie for a certain 8 minutes. That's not that long. Godzilla just sleeps in a coliseum, fights some kaijus, tries to kick the shit out of King Kong one more time, then he goes down to Hollow Earth and fights Shimo, and then Zuko. That's all he does, and then the movie's over. But real quick, I want to talk about the humans. Usually the humans in this movie piss me off. They're so boring, and it's so unengaging to see them just mess around and do what they have to do. Like, I just hate it in a monster movie. Like, I just don't like it unless you gotta make them at least care, make their story meaningful, and most of them will never do. But this movie, I feel like, is the first movie that actually made it bearable, because it just concentrates on a small band of these scientists who are studying these titans, and they go down to Hollow Earth, and that made it more better because it's just a small group instead of a bunch of useless characters we don't care about. Mostly because of Brian Tyree Henry and Dan Stevens, because they're both back and forth banter was actually pretty cool, pretty funny at times. This movie has the most humor and very slapstick, and it did work for me because It's funny, and we have enough goofy shit in this movie to like not make it seem like a stick out like a sore thumb. It's okay. There's a lot of goofiness, a lot of cartooniness in this movie, but it just doesn't matter in the end because you can't help but just enjoy it. Sometimes I just want a good time at the movies. I don't need to see a groundbreaking movie like Macbeth or anything like that. I just want to have a fun time, and this movie definitely delivers the fun time at the movies, and that's great. That's sometimes all I need. That's all I need sometimes. I got a monkey fighting a pink lizard with an infinity gauntlet. That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard, and it works, and I had a lot of good time with it. We all need a bit of goofiness at the movies. Can't be serious all the time, guys. In the end, guys, this movie slaps, and I can't deny that I had a great time at the theater for this one. There is some stuff I didn't vibe with, like the whole tribe down in Hollow Earth. I thought that came out of nowhere, and this little girl trying to control, is the only one who control these kaijus. I thought that was kind of weird too. Like it couldn't have been something else besides that, but it didn't compromise my whole experience. Especially the amount of collateral damage. Like, oh my god, what do you think the body count of this movie is? But real quick, I want to shout out one of my favorite theaters I always love to go to, and I got their popcorn bucket. I love this popcorn bucket, and I'm glad I always get to collect these little bad boys. So thank you AMC Theaters for making this sweet looking popcorn bucket. Love you guys. Last thing though, this movie felt like it wanted to do two different things. A sequel to Kong Skull Island and also a Godzilla movie. But they just crammed it into both, and I heard this was planning to be a King Kong 2, and then they just try to stuff Godzilla in there, and it does show, but it just depends on you whether that compromises your experience or not. It didn't for me that much, but you could definitely see it in here. It's pretty obvious. That's a moneymaker though. Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire gets a nice B.